Going from Lucas to Lucas with a fly past at the tattoo. Fly past formation then will be in big battle.
This year's tattoo, sponsored by the Royal Bank of Scotland, is dedicated to the world's oldest independent air service, formed 86 years ago, the Royal Air Force. From RAF Lucas across the Firth of Forth in Fife, the Red Arrows aerobatic team, in their 40th year, overflies Scotland's capital and its castle, as far below, the fanfare Fighter, written and directed by the RAF's Principal Director of Music, Wing Commander Stuart Stirling, opens the Edinburgh Military Tattoo of 2004. The traditional and unforgettable welcome to the heart of Scotland's history, as the 200-strong massed pipes and drums enter across the drawbridge. From 5 famous Scottish regiments they come: the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards, Scots Guards, the Royal Scots, the Royal Highland Fusiliers, and the King's Own Scottish Borderers. From the Royal Gurkha Rifles, the Royal Air Force in their distinctive Air Force blue tartan. From New Zealand, the City of Invercargill Pipe Band. From South Africa, the drums and pipes of the Cape Town Highlanders. And on their first visit to Edinburgh, the pipes and drums of the Canadian Scottish Regiment. The tune is the 6th of June, 1944, written by the Director of Army Bagpipe Music and Highland Drumming, Captain Stuart Sampson, to honour the 60th anniversary of the historic landings on the beaches of Normandy. A soldier in the trenches of the Great War, which began 90 years ago, calls to his love in the Western Isles not to be sad. Donald MacDonald's The Fair Swan. There follow 4 reels played in March time: Itchy Fingers, Sick a Wife as Willie Had, Sleepy Maggie, and Inch Druer House. Inchtrua House, another composition by Captain Stuart Sampson, is the present home of the Army School of Piping and Highland Drumming at Redford Barracks in Edinburgh.
Crossbones by the centre! Quick, march!
Drum Major Scott MacDougall, our Royal Highland Fusiliers, gives the command, and to the Jolly Beggarman. The mast, pipes and drums will now move out into a formation that represents the supreme award for gallantry, the Victoria Cross. First won by a naval officer serving in the Baltic Sea 150 years ago. This is a tribute to all who have since served with conspicuous and selfless courage in the land, sea and air forces of the Commonwealth of Nations. The slow air Katerina Soroko Purvis was composed by Piper Jack Purvis of Walkerburn in honor of his Ukrainian wife. He began composing at the age of 75 and now aged 77 has written 250 pipe tunes. The hornpipe was Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Durkin, written by Stuart Sampson when he was a pipe major of the Gordons and named after his then commanding officer. The set ends with the very popular jig, The Glasgow Police Pipe Band, by the late pipe major Donald MacLeod. The massed pipes and drums.
Reform bands by the centre! Quick, march!
Now, on Drum Major MacDougall's command, the pipes and drums will reform and leave the esplanade to the tunes The Bonnie Lass of Fyvie and Ken Muir's Up in a War, and, need I add, to the tumultuous applause of 9,000 people. Brigadier Mel Jemison, the tattoo's producer, travels all over the world to bring unusual and unique examples of ethnic culture to Edinburgh. From the hill country of northeast India come the Cheraw cultural dance troupe. The Mizo, which means people of the hills, are said to have originated in China and then moved to Burma, migrating to the Chin Hills in the 13th century. But eventually, they settled in the Mizo Hills of northern India, in what is now Mizoram. Granted statehood only 17 years ago. The dance we are seeing, the Cheraw, or bamboo dance, is 2,000 years old. It's danced by the young girls of a village to celebrate weddings or a bumper harvest, while around them sit the young men, weaving rhythmic and intricate patterns with long bamboo poles. Now, the patterns change all the time, so the steps have to be nimble and lively. Often accompanied by gongs and small drums, tonight they also dance to the music of the Lucknow Band of the Prince of Wales's division. And they so love this music that they're taking it home with them. The Lucknow Band's director of music is Captain Tim Cooper. The delightful smiling faces of the Cheraw dancers from India.
Queen's Colour Squadron, by the centre, quick march!
A precision drill display by the world-renowned Queen's Colour Squadron of the Royal Air Force, led by Flight Sergeant Merv Howard. And they're accompanied by the combined pipes and drums of the Royal Air Force from RAF Halton, Kinloss, Lucas, Lossiemouth, and Waddington, all in their new Royal Air Force tartan, and the band of the RAF Regiment under its Director of Music, Flight Lieutenant Chris Weldon. The RAF Regiment was formed in 1942 to protect airfields in every theatre of war, and it served with great distinction. In July 1946, they were acknowledged as a permanent and integral part of the Royal Air Force. 3 years later, the regiment abandoned its khaki battle dress for standard Air Force blue. The Queen presented her colour to the Royal Air Force in 1953, and on the 1st of November 1960, the RAF drill unit, which had existed for 40 years, was renamed the Queen's Colour Squadron, manned exclusively since then by officers and airmen of the RAF Regiment. Responsible for representing the Royal Air Force on all ceremonial occasions, the squadron has developed its highly skilled continuity drill display without word of command. Unique among such displays, every drill movement you see comes from the standard infantry manual of drill. It requires absolute concentration from every gunner. There are 436 foot movements and 118 rifle movements in this display. Chicken feed when you consider the 2,700,000 movements performed in 23 hours and 55 minutes, which took the Queen's Colour Squadron into the Guinness Book of Records. And that feat of endurance remains unchallenged. The Queen's Colour Squadron of the Royal Air Force. combined pipes and drums of the Royal Air Force and the band of the RAF Regiment. Accompanied by 24 pipers, the Lowland Band of the Scottish Division and the Band of the Dragoon Guards, enter to the Castle Esplanade from all over the Big Island the Australian Scott Highland dancers under the direction of Cheryl Roach, and the Tattoo's own Highland Spring dancers, all dressed in the new Highland Spring tartan. Their founder and director is the former world champion Highland dancer Billy Forsyth, who has choreographed this very original tribute in dance to the Royal Air Force. So, Forsyth's 1st Regiment of Foot takes to the skies on wings. First, the dancers in 3 circles form the famous red, white and blue roundel of the RAF. Now static, and then rotating propellers. And as the music changes towards time, a flight formation. The dancers, average age 17, come from all over central Scotland and from all over Australia. Most of the Australian girls met for the first time here in Edinburgh. Experienced Highland dancers, they virtually learned the complicated movements in 3 days. This last part of the dance represents the emigration of Scots to Australia, their integration into life down under, and their remembrance of a distant homeland. The Saltire, Scotland's national flag. 80 young dancers from Australia and from Scotland will exit to two traditional tunes, Waltzing Matilda and Macpherson's Rat. And of course next year the Tattoo will, for the first time, be visiting Australia and giving performances in Sydney's Aussie Stadium. Celebrating 10 years of racial integration and universal democracy in South Africa, the South African Navy Band. Originally formed 50 years ago, the band now consists of 42 multi-skilled musicians, they sing too, representing all the communities in South Africa and using many of their traditional instruments. The tune is Mama Tembu, and the director of music, himself an accomplished instrumentalist, is Commander Mike Oldham, once a Grenadier Guards bandsman.